Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back to Truth Seekers. Tonight is going to be, I don't want to say a victory lap of sorts, but maybe, because some of you may remember, in 2017, former rock star um, of Blink 182 fan Tom DeLonge started a public benefit company and solicited investors for money, and I started raising alarm bells right away from the very beginning, from the first press conference. Because in the first press conference, and there are clips of me bringing this up back then, Tom DeLonge famously promised investors that they were going to create a revolutionary or a spaceship with a revolutionary power source which would change the world. Now, because of various jobs I had, I knew a little bit about public companies and investment, and I had a real problem with them promising people a spaceship right off the bat. And I commented that Tom DeLonge and his friends better come through with this spaceship that they're promising while they're soliciting public investment money, because that's going to be a real problem for them with the SEC if they don't indeed follow through with what they're promising the investors while taking their money. Um, and at various times, I have spoken up and out and against TTSA. Haven't gone as strongly as some people, like dark journalists, who called it a CIA psyop, even though they had a combined experience of 150 years of experience in the CIA on their board and various people involved with TTSA. You could add it up. Dark journalists did 150 years of CIA experience between all of the members of the TTSA board, etc. Now, I tried several times to get through these SEC filings. They're very confusing, and I didn't want to misspeak or say something wrong. I'm not a forensic accountant. Most people aren't. And I tried two or three times to get through these. I wasn't able to. But I had been talking to Manny and from AREA503. You may remember him from the Who's Lou documentary. Last time he was here, right after that, is when all the shit started. So I'm kind of bracing myself, like, what kind of shit is going to start this time with this controversial son of a bitch? But I love him because he does great work, and we've got him back in our green room right now. We're getting him sobered up. Yeah, no, I think he's ready. All right. So there you go, man. Is the shit going to start again?
Um, yeah, probably. I'm just calling it real, man. It's probably going to start again. Like
Yeah,
it seems like whenever you rock the boat a little bit with this particular group, that there's always some kind of backlash because it's so confrontational and warlike and stuff with these people that they just have to respond in that way. They can't just sit down and be like, oh, here's counterfacts. Here's a counter argument that is intelligent, that's logical or whatever. They just have to go to war. Um, whatever. We don't have to sink to that level, and
yeah,
that's, I'd try not to, we'll just keep our
yeah.
heads
And
up and keep moving on. But
do you remember though back then in 2017, 2018, 2019, this TTSA, we called them TTSA fanboys, and they were all over UFO Twitter and all over Twitter, and you could not even question TTSA, or you would get like hounded by 100 different. I don't know if they were sock puppets or accounts. Some people have suggested that the attack dogs all over Twitter, anytime you question TTSA, were CIA psyop. They don't want people knowing that the psyop is a psyop, and there was all kinds of conspiracy theories because it was just so venomous. Like you couldn't even ask a question about the, like I started going, where I can't wait to see the spaceship. I want to take a ride in it, and they would all jump all over me, and it would be this big thing. And now it's funny, like where are all those rabid fans now that it is. By the way, I put the description to Manny's video, which he just premiered. He just came over here straight from the premiere. We arranged it this way, but there in his video is a point by point breakdown of exactly how they. And I'm going to say this: TTSA fucked all the investors. Everybody who invested money in TTSA got literally bent over and fucked by Tom DeLonge, Lou Elizondo, and everybody in TTSA. Because like you could explain it better, but they diluted the stock so much that it became just worthless, right?
Right, and you know, if you remember, it started out pretty worthless at like 3/1000th of a penny's value per share that they sold for $5 US. You know, so it started out worse, like I said in the video, and then, or it started out horrible, and it got worse as time went on. And you know, like
Yeah.
let me touch on a couple of things that you said, and you know, like while I was backstage there, you know, like you said that you one have been calling this out since day one, and I'm glad that you have been because not a lot of people did. You know, like I wasn't real vocal about it back in day one. I wasn't digging through SEC filings back then. You know, that wasn't till recently that I started
It
doing that
was the
type of research and
spaceship
really,
promises. It was the spaceship
yeah,
promises that did it to me. I went, there's no way that this is way over promising and under delivering. You can't do that while you're so right
I
away to
I
me it
agree,
seemed like a pump and
100%.
dump.
Yeah.
It seemed like a pump and dump scam. Like they were going to promise the world, get all the money and blow it all on whatever. And basically what I predicted happened. They spent all the money and then some, right? And they just didn't deliver anything except the entertainment bullshit.
Yeah, so they did have a, like I said, the Illustro rapid response was something that they actually produced for the CRADA, but the significant amount
Yeah,
of their money,
a movie truck.
yeah,
Great, great.
yeah. Oh, on that point, on what Moonlick is saying there, and on what Dark Journalist said, I think the number is actually a lot higher than 150 because a lot of the
Yeah,
advisors that they have in these little committees and stuff are all ex-CIA too. And so you start adding that up, and it
yeah.
really,
They may
really
have
adds
three
up. You
hundred
know,
years. Yeah,
it might even be, yeah, or even significantly more, you know, like you just don't even know. But there's a lot of those people that I said yesterday on the Josh and Artemis show, we talked about it briefly. And I said, you know, the place crawls, and it does. It crawls with CIA people all over the back of the house. It's like the front of the house is Tom DeLonge, the entertainment stuff, which we're still seeing. I think in February, he finished shooting Monsters of California. So it's in post production. We'll see that by the end of the year, hopefully. And hopefully it's a big smash for him because I think they own that. But the problem with TTSA is as I outlined in the video, is that all the money they get ends up getting gobbled up by DeLong, man. He just takes a snack out of everything
yeah.
until
And you
there's
know what?
nothing left.
I have a big problem with the fact that
Yeah.
he out of investor money, he paid his sister $150,000 a year to be a public relations person. Have you, Manny, ever emailed her or them to try to get questions answered? She got paid $150,000 a year for how many years now? Right? Is it
Well,
5
I
years
think her
now?
salary on the board, the paperwork that I saw said that her salary was 100,000 for being on the board, and that she was one of two people who were drawing a salary here at this point. But that doesn't mean that they haven't before, because other people have drawn salaries, and that's something that that I wanted to touch on too. Like you said, so many things right at the get go.
Oh, I'm
Like when you
sorry.
say that
Yeah.
this is a twisted web, dude, it is a twisted web. And you know, I really had to take that snapshot of that period that they were, those first 2 years that they were offering stocks, to try to get just something locked down that we could look at, because there's so much willy-nilly back and forth maneuverings behind the scenes with the corporations and the contracts and the licensing and all of that stuff, that it's just so dang confusing. Like you say, you start to get into it, and you try to draw a roadmap of it, and it looks like, you know, a 3-year-old's crayon drawing, because things are just going everywhere. You
Yeah,
know, like you're like, what the heck is,
he
yeah,
folded $400,000 of his own debt into TTSA somehow, right? So there's 400. So he like
yeah.
starts this thing, and then he goes, "Hey, everybody, I need you to invest in my new company. I'm going to take $400,000 of my debt though, and start the company right there. $400,000 in debt. That's a huge problem.
Right.
I just don't understand. But and I think I was wrong on the salary. It could be 100,000. Let's go with $100,000. Tom DeLong, you raised 2 million, a little over $2 million in investor funds total, and that would mean that he paid his sister a half a million of that 2 million raised. So she got a quarter of the money in this past 5 years of the total investor money raised. And she doesn't reply to emails. She's supposed to be a PR person for them. She won't answer questions. She doesn't respond to emails. I emailed them a ton of times asking for interviews with each person, asking questions about the spaceship. Where are they at in development? Every 6 months I would like an asshole. I'm like, oh wow, where's the spaceship? Can we see pictures of the spaceship you're developing? Because I'm a troublemaking asshole. So I would do that. Never got a reply. So what is she getting paid all this money for? $500,000 in the past 5 years,
Well,
she doesn't reply
yeah.
to emails.
From what I understand, she's the one who does all this. Like she runs the business. So when we're talking about SEC filings and different contracts and things like that, I'm thinking that's her. And if so, I mean, she's a very clever business person. I have a profound respect for what they've done there. I mean, it's difficult to find quasi-legal ways to just completely bleed a company dry of all of its money that's coming in, but yet they've managed to do it, which is savvy business 101. Like good for them. But people need to be like that doesn't mean that people have to invest in it, and that's what I'm hoping people are wise to.
Yeah,
Like
I
if
can't
they,
believe they're
I'm
trying
not
to get new
sure.
investors now. Like, oh, we spent all
Right.
that money the
Mm-hmm.
first dummies gave us. We're looking for new stupid people who are going to invest in and give us more money that we could give away to our friends and family. It doesn't. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And I listen, Manny. I'm giving you a promise. I know one person at the SEC. I'm calling him. I'm sending him your video, and I know him enough to know that he's interested in scammy stuff. Like I've contacted him before about different things, like the pump and dump scam that Pete Peterson, David Wilcox fraud fake source was involved in, and he looked into that, but then Pete Peterson died, so he couldn't. But I'm going to send it to him, and then I want on the record comments from somebody at the SEC. I want them to watch this 1 hour. It's very concise. Here's your explanation of what they did. Tell me how this is legal. Tell me, is there an open investigation into Tom DeLonge, Lou Elizondo, Hal Puthoff, and all these guys, or why isn't there an open investigation into this? Because it's clearly something's not right here.
Yeah, it sure doesn't seem that way. And I said that too. I said, well, it's a public benefit corporation. It seems like it's structured to pretty much just benefit DeLong the most, and then the other board members, because like the way that they do it is they give themselves those stocks and they play willy-nilly with those stocks. And what I mean by willy-nilly, well, like there's one point where they say that Jim Semivan and Hal Puthoff relinquished a whole bunch of stocks back to the company. But what they don't tell you is that most likely there's another part of the filing where they were compensated for that in some form. Example is Tom DeLonge doing the same thing. Yeah, like last year where he took one of their pieces of I think they had a holding company called Love Movie Inc. that held some of their intellectual property, and he gave back 300,000 in stock as part of a deal, for like $100. So in one filing, you see, oh, Tom DeLonge gave back 300,000 of these stocks for $100. He's trying to, make the investors' money worth more, offset that dilution to the value of their stock that we talked about in the film
I can't
or in
believe
the
how much they
documentary or whatever.
diluted it. Yeah.
Oh, and let me tell you something about that number. The number that in the piece, the 20 million, that's a kind of an average number, because that number fluctuates as they play what I call playing grab ass with the stock, where they give each other a bunch of stock and they give it back for something else and do all this stuff behind the scene. I've seen that number as high as I think 60 million, where there were 60 million shares outstanding, owed or totally owned by the board and all them, where the public investors have 440,000. And yeah, so the numbers go up and down daily. In fact, they just posted the last little bit of their second, or what they're calling their third round of stock sales. What's that?
I
Oh,
almost want
you
to
like all the green.
I almost want to buy just the minimum amount of stock. This way, I could be a stockholder, and then I could start demanding shit. Do you know what I mean? Like start calling them up on the phone every
Yeah,
day. I'm an investor.
yeah,
What's going on with the money? They have to tell you
yeah.
if
Do
you're an
it.
investor. They got to do something.
This,
So, listen,
yeah.
everybody, we're going to have a special project here. I'm going to buy
Mm-hmm.
the minimum. I think it's $300. I'm going to buy the minimum amount of stock,
This one's
and then
750.
oh, 750. Maybe
This,
we'll have a
yeah.
fundraiser
This,
so that we can become, if we can have a
maybe we'll
fundraiser,
split
we'll do
it.
that. Yeah, we'll become the
Yeah, you want to
minimum
split it?
stockholder. Yeah, yeah. And then we're going to be stockholders so we can bust our
I
balls
like
every
it.
day about where the money going. Why am I not getting money back on my $750 investment? Because we just
Mm-hmm.
saw through your film.
Well,
They made $2
and truly,
million,
that
and then the stockholders got what? A nickel?
well, they would. That was a hypothetical situation. I was saying
They
if
didn't
they
even get
made
the
$1
nickel,
million,
friends. They didn't even get the
I
nickel.
don't know what. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't talked to an investor who said that they got any profit sharing at all. So I don't know if they've, and the thing is like, and I went over this in my live stream that I did a couple months back on this, where I first started really digging into the paperwork on this. I think that, I don't know, like, it's hard to explain what's going on over there. It's just so freaking complicated. Like SEC is corrupted. Sorry. I was reading one of the chat comments there.
I'm
Money
trying
laundering.
to
I
keep
mean,
up with it. Nobody likes the SEC, but they're a very necessary body. Even though they don't do shit about all the congressmen and senators that are insider trading. I want to know about that too. Like, Jesus Christ, our whole
openly
system
insider
is
trading,
our whole system
you
is
can go to the
corrupt.
SEC page and look. Yeah. Yeah. It needs an overhaul, but what are you going to do? Like, it's the only thing we have. So,
Yeah, and you know what
but yeah, they're,
I mentioned those TTSA fanboys. First, I want to know where they all went because now I'm like, I told you so, dummies, right? And number two, this is extremely problematic for Lou Elizondo and all the Lou Elizondo fans because he was there as at the first sign that the investors were getting screwed over. He could have resigned. He did not do that. He sat there and got his money and let that happen. That speaks amazing volumes about his character, about his ethics, about his sense of morality, about his honesty, honestly. And that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. So the fanboys are going to go
yeah.
ape shit now because there's more evidence that Lou Elizondo is not somebody you should trust, especially not with your money. He was
Well,
in
yeah, as
on
a
it. He was in
spokesperson
on the
and
whole thing.
endorsing a product. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to be. And in fact, it was, it kind of goes further than that because this is a stock scheme. They really did try to, like you say, pump and dump, man. They represented that these stocks were going to make you rich. How can you not expect to get rich if you're going to disrupt the automotive industry, the intercontinental travel industry,
We're all gonna have
transportation,
flying cars.
shipping,
Yeah.
all of it? I mean, like, these are trillion-dollar industries, any one of them, and you add them all together, and they're going to say, well, we're just going to take these over with this technology that is, I mean, seemingly green. I mean, did you see the car? There was no exhaust on their flying car. It didn't look like it ran off of gas to me. It had an
Yeah.
exotic power source. It was going to revolutionize the world. And it was all garbage, man. It was all garbage. It's the same garbage that's been being fed to us for
Yeah.
years,
And then
and I call it
David Wilcock stole their scam because David Wilcock went, wait, they promised people flying cars and they made $2 million. Then David Wilcock started promising. That's what's happening right now, friends. David
well,
Wilcock
you know what? Wilcott
is
might actually try to
promised.
put the money into some kind of like science, at least, though. At least he won't just
He
dump it
did,
into,
but he
I
put it
mean,
into a scam company that's never going to produce anything. And Tommy G is here, and
yeah.
I want to clarify this because he said TTSA is a total scam. Did George Knapp get any dividends? No, George Knapp got screwed because George Knapp was one of the early investors. So George Knapp
Mm-hmm.
bought stock and he got screwed and didn't make any money, just like all the other stockholders. Unless he had a separate deal I'm not aware of, he got screwed also.
Yeah,
George
those
Knapp was
common
not in
shares
on
aren't
it, but
aren't worth a whole lot.
George Knapp was an early
Yeah.
investor, and then he gave them all kinds of publicity, which for me is an ethical problem. He should have
I
disclosed
think
at the beginning of every time he did a story on them. By the way, I'm an investor. You should know that before investing or something. And he didn't do that. He just gave them tons of publicity and TV stories and blog posts or whatever, the Mystery Wire, videos,
Mr.
interviews.
Wire.
He helped publicize the stock offering.
He did, and he also was promoting the Seattle press event, I think, a month early. So he definitely had some kind of prior knowledge. What that was, it may have been limited. They might have just drip fed him something and said, "Hey, something's coming." But he was promoting it early, even before those videos were taken by Elizondo and Mellon from the Pentagon. He was promoting it on Twitter. So there were people that may have been in on it, but the level is, or you have to ask what level were they in on, how far were they in on it? How far did they know?
I want to thank William Carr for a kind and generous $5 Canadian super sticker. Thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your support. There's a money button down there if you want to support the show. We're a viewer-supported show. I can't just steal money from investors, So, and we have Trixie to thank you for the cash. There you go.
This is Trixie from Truth Seekers, thanking you for your generosity. I'm gonna praise the cash so hard, I'm gonna teleport myself on board a sexy tic-tac UFO. Thank you for your generosity.
Thanks, Trixie. And thank you, William. Very, very kind of you. So, where does this go from here, though? Because I don't understand how they're soliciting new donations or new investors when they're so. How much are they in debt right now? Can you even
So
tell?
to the best of my knowledge, they're physically about 5 million in debt, where they have real costs that have run under, and then the rest of that $56 million or deficit. So whatever that is, 46 million. That's or whatever. Sorry, 51 million. That's the stock benefit program where they gave everybody a bunch of stocks and did some other things like royalties, consulting fees. People are getting all kinds of consulting fees out of there. Hal, Jim, all of them get
How put
consulting
off?
contracts.
I want to. I
Yeah,
want to
through their
make sure that
stuff.
I discuss this with you. Like, there's a lot of people that are huge fans of Hal Puthoff. Like, well, he's been investigating the paranormal for decades for the government. And what people need to know about Mister Doctor Puthoff is that he works on nonsensical fringe science. He doesn't have a lot of published work, and um, one thing that he's famous for is, and this is embarrassing for him. He wasted millions of dollars at the SRI from, I guess, investors. I don't know who, but I'm told that he wasted tons of money studying psychics, and he declared Uri Geller 100% genuine, real psychic, that he had superpowers. Years later, of course, Uri Geller would come out and admit he just used magic tricks to fool Hal Puthoff and everybody else. So Puthoff wasted his time, his money, and maybe investors' money studying this fake magic trick psychic that was doing kids' magic tricks for him, but frame them a little different. And he got fooled and he wasted all that money. So Hal Puthoff is not a credible person. Those people who think he's a
Oh,
credible
no.
scientist think again. He is a crackpot, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's spreading some misinformation. I think that's what it is, and that's probably why they're being allowed to do what they're doing, is because there is something in it for the government to kind of be a little lethargic as far as stopping this thing goes, because they are getting their misinformation quota filled for free by these clowns.
Yeah, and Hal
But
Puthoff
what's
is
the
a
cost?
Scientologist, or was. Yeah, he's a Scientologist too,
Yeah,
which just means nutter to me. When I really, apparently he's a high
yeah.
ranking, so he's in on the whole Xenu and the aliens and all that stuff.
And Hal got his coaching from, I think it's Kit Green, or maybe not. Maybe they've just been associating for so long that they feed off each other's scabs, or whatever. But I don't
Yeah,
know,
it's
man.
all
It's
these.
it's real
There's a few of
interesting.
these scientists. What is it? Dr. Eric Davis is another one, and they always want money to do their crackpot research, but they never show us anything that works. It's just like, well, I'm going to write some theoretical papers for your money, like the Bass stuff. You're right. $22 million.
Yeah,
We got a bunch of
yeah.
wackadoo crackpot science papers that were largely theoretical from
I
Hal Puthoff,
I
and the government paid him for that, right? Like, it's
yeah.
crazy.
Like somebody mentioned Serpo in the chat, and I'm glad that they did. And that's there are echoes of these same misinformation campaigns in this, where like they go out and there might be one, anywhere from 5 or 10% truth to this whole story, or maybe none, but it's definitely not all true. And I remember when those papers were actually released, and I did a video on them, and there was RT piece, Russia Today news piece, where I was like, they were laughing about it. They're like, oh, the U.S. is gonna, if aliens attack, they're studying warp fields and warp bubbles and invisibility cloaks. That's another one people forget about. Remember the invisibility cloak,
Yeah, we're gonna
you
get
know?
that Harry
But
Potter invisibility cloak. Yeah,
weird science. But this is what like you notice. Let's shift gears a little bit. You notice how like it seems like Dr. Greer and now Elizondo, how they're kind of sounding like they're talking the same with this weird voodoo magic stuff and the science and
consciousness. That's what they're all going to.
consciousness
Yeah.
and dealing with the PACs. And that's what I think that might be my next piece. Let's look into these half a dozen or so UFO/disclosure political action committees that are out there, and let's see who's really behind those, because I'm kind of curious. Where does that money come from? Is it shady dark money from a defense industry contractor? Is it from something else? And why is this such a good thing? And who are they representing? Because that's really what those folks are talking about. Like they're saying, oh, we're lobbying Congress and stuff. And even Dr. Greer's mentioned the PACs, and I'm thinking, God, why would you want to get involved with those?
Yeah, and
Like,
it's funny that you mentioned that because a while ago I interviewed one of those disclosure advocates that's always begging for money, and it sounded real good, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to lobby Congress, and I'm going to be here. I want to be here in Washington. Stephen Bassett, that's who it was, and he talks a good game, but then at the end of the interview, he did like a 10 or 20 minute pitch begging everybody to give him something like, $20,000 or $30,000 so that he could stay in Washington for a few months and talk to congressmen about disclosure. And I was like, that's not going to do shit except give you a nice long vacation in Washington D.C., all expenses paid. Captain Corrosive
right,
is
pay an
here with the
overpriced lease.
look at this one. Kind and generous $5 super chat. Captain Corrosive says this is 100 times what you'd make off one TTSA stock. Thank you. I'm very fortunate.
Oh,
Thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your support of the show. It is much appreciated. So I want to encourage people to make sure that they watch the video that you just produced. The link to it is in the description of this video because you really worked hard on it. It's clear, right?
yeah, yeah. I spent a lot of time digging through those SEC filings and having to learn, different things by, just stopping in the middle of research because I didn't understand something and going out figuring out what that meant and then coming back to it later. And, like any big data project like this, you just got to kind of soak it all up and then kind of kick back for a week or two and kind of clear your head and come back and look at it and then just be like, okay, here we go. Boom, and it just takes time, but I do, I would encourage people if they like the work, if they go out and watch it, then to go back and watch the live stream that I did, uh, you know, where it's about 3 hours of me doing research, because there's a lot of different tactics in there that I teach, that people can learn from about how to do this research for themselves. And I say that at the beginning of the video too. I'm trying to educate the public and also encourage, stimulate other researchers into doing their own further investigation, take my work and run with it. So hopefully I'm successful in those endeavors.
Yeah, and it's the mark of a good researcher to be able to say that anybody can go after me with the materials I've provided, and you'll probably come to the same conclusions that I have. I tried to get through those SEC filings, and it was just like, I don't know. It's just this big maze of money being moved around. It's a shell game. That's exactly what it is. Or three card money, find the queen. They just keep shuffling money around, and it just seems far too
Yep.
complicated to me. Like I don't know. I run a business and I have two columns: expenses and income, and that's it. But they got 25 columns of like, here's debt from this other company that Tom DeLonge owns, and we're going to shift some money over here. Oh, and there's some
Yep.
assets. And what a lot of people don't know is that Tom DeLonge folded his band into TTSA. So basically, investors were paying him to go play Rockstar with what I will say. I'll use the word allegedly a failing music endeavor. I don't believe that he's making real money with that band of his without the Blink 182 name attached to it. I think he's failing, and there's evidence for that. I'm not just you know, I'm not doing research by proclamation. I've seen live videos of his band performing in pretty large venues where it was half full or something. And I'm told from a
Yeah.
friend that they were doing something called four walling, Manny. If you don't know what that is, four walling means you rent the venue. So the venue may say, hey, we'll give you lights, sound, and a doorman, whatever, and the venue, the stage hands for $20,000 for the night. And then you sell tickets, whatever you make over the $20,000, you keep. But a lot of bands that do that fail because they don't even make enough to pay for the venue for that night. So I'd love to see a detailed examination of just his band books and how the hell is he folding all that debt into TTSA and making investors cover for his fail. Basically, investors can be forced to pay for his business failures, right? And vanity projects
Yeah.
will always lose money. If it's a vanity project, it's going to lose money, right?
I think you're right on all accounts. And if the company overall is losing money, I think it's safe to assume that Angels and Airwaves is losing money because it seems to be the predominant part of the company. As well as all the T-shirts and all that. I mean, like, the sales that they have through their online merchandise is all, that seems to be pretty much their main form of income. They only got 25 grand from the Crata that I could tell. They didn't produce anything else that I could find to generate income. So it's pretty much just the website. And if you look during the time frame where they said, oh, we had increased sales, well, that's because they raised the prices on things and put out some pretty high price like box album sets and things like that. So they
Those
really are
collector's
taking that.
editions, yeah.
Yeah, so they're taking a very small market that they have, and they are bleeding these guys dry as far as the merchandise goes. They're just maximizing every little bit of it. I mean, $60 for a T-shirt or whatever it is on the website to me is ridiculous. A T-shirt should be
Yeah.
5 or
20
$10 if
bucks.
you can get away with it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
tops
well,
20
20 bucks
nowadays
is
if you
fair.
have to, but well, I mean, for a merch piece, because you're paying for other stuff, but these guys are producing their own things, so their overhead should be pretty low because they're paying to buy these things in batches and house them and stuff, which incurs other costs. But as I think I illustrated, the majority of those operating costs are all going back to Tom DeLonge for some different wink nudge thing. And like you said, they're doing this shell game with the money, and that's what makes it hard to really follow it. So you got to kind of assimilate it all, step back, blow away all the smoke and garbage and just look at the bottom line. And so the bottom line was that they have a $56 million deficit, they have a $5 million real debt deficiency, and then they have all these weird stocks and things. And meanwhile, the whole time, Tom DeLonge's been running this company to a real debt of a million and a quarter a year to get 5 million over 4 years. And he's going to try to be like, well, it's not debt, it's all deficit, it's this, it's stock. But we see what they do with the stock. Tom DeLonge gave back 300,000 or so of the stock as part of a wink nudge thing to get Love Movie Inc. and get some of his royalties paid off. Now let's talk about that. Where's all that operating money going? DeLonge's getting his agreement, I think originally was 100,000 a year guaranteed for royalties. Well,
Yeah,
then
so
they set up another consulting.
he's gotten half a million. So basically,
Oh,
for
just
sure,
from that one
he's
deal.
gotten a $500,000 in the past 5 years of the initial 2 million invested, and his sister has gotten a $500,000 of the 2 million initially raised in their stock offering. So him and his sister took right off the top half of the money for their salaries or whatever benefit package they're getting.
Right, but
A
there's
hundred
more money
thousand a
that
year
comes
for
out, and that
5 years. It's a $500,000. 100,000 for 5 years for each of them.
right, and
It's
her
a
for
half a
her
million.
$100,000 salary is what you're saying. Yeah. So then you have another salary, which was their secretary that had a salary. Then you've got leases on places, which they had. They had the Encinitas, the beach shack, as I called it, the Encinitas joint. But they got to buy their way out of the lease on that with the PPP check, as we discovered in the live stream that I
Yeah.
did.
After
Like,
everything
I
else,
mean, like,
he took PPP money, right? He took the
yeah, close
government
to
COVID
100K.
bailout money.
Hmm.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Al Warrior, for
So
your kindness, your generosity, and your
yeah,
support. He says, "Great work, Manny and Stephen, for continuous exposing these frauds." Thank you,
yeah.
longtime
Thank you,
supporter
Al.
Al Warrior. We appreciate it. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
understand. I don't understand how somebody is in jail or somebody's not getting investigated here. Like this just seems like sometimes I go, maybe I'm naive, and this is just what some of these rich people get away with. That
It,
you you
I'm
know
afraid that
you
might be it,
know
Stephen. Really.
because you're a
Yeah.
working class guy. Look, me or you, working class guy, we get caught stealing a couple $1,000s from somebody, whatever, an employer, whatever. They throw the book at us, man. There's going to be jail time. You're
Hmm.
going to be fucked. These rich people,
Yeah.
they steal millions, and there's all these legal loopholes, and oh no, it's okay. And I have heard a lot of these defenders of TTSA. When I said, "Oh, there's $60 million in debt," they're like, "No, you just don't understand how stocks work, Stephen. You don't understand." I'm like, who cares how stocks work? They have $60 million in liabilities or debt on their balance sheet, and they screwed all the investors and made the stocks from the people who did give them money absolutely worthless, right?
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much they started out at 3/1000th of a penny. The stocks did, and when they diluted them, they just went down from there. And again, how much they're diluted changes on an almost
Now
daily basis.
it's going to be like a
Yeah.
1/1000th. Your stock is now worth one one
Oh, it's
thousandth of a penny per share. Thank you, Carolyn
yeah.
Barnett. Kind and generous, $9.99. Carolyn Barnett's a member. We have memberships now. Says
Wow,
thanks,
nice.
Stephen Manny, for doing the research and giving us the actual truth. Now, I failed at the research several times. Ask people. People have asked me, why don't you go through the SEC filing, Steve? You'll figure this shit out. I tried, and I got a headache every time I started doing it again. I just couldn't get through it,
It's
right?
tough. Yeah, the way that I had to do it was just set out with my composition pad and start doing timelines and documenting dates and starting to put together, so you've got these timelines through that period. And as I found significant events during the timeline, I'd add them to the timeline. And that's the only way that I could try to get a big picture about what was going on, because it is so complicated, and I did have to spend quite a bit of time learning new things, but I'm glad I did it, because now I can look at that stuff and rip right through it. Like I have no problem reading these things and cutting right to the chase, but it is complicated. And, every day I go back there and look at these documents, I discover something new that I missed the first time. So I'm not trying to say that I'm, Joe, Mr. Amazing Researcher of the universe, like it's not
No, you
that,
were
but
just
this is what I found.
yeah. I
Yeah,
would
this
put my
is,
research skills against yours, but I think that you beat me on the determination part. Because I know from previous things I've done, you got to just say I'm getting through this shit no matter what I have to do. And it was a mountain of paperwork and nonsense and spreadsheets and all kinds of. It's a maze of
yeah,
money, and
it's
Manny made
60
it through the maze
documents.
of money.
Yeah.
Yes, 60 at
Six,
least 60 pages of
I think
shit.
it's 59 or 60. Yeah. Well, no, it's different documents.
That's
And it just
documents,
like the
yeah, and they could
last
be
filing.
multi-page.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hundreds of
Oh,
pages of shit. He had to go through hundreds of pages of shit to get us the truth about this shit. So I, for
oh,
one,
dude, the last
congratulate you
filing was
because
140. Yeah.
oh my god, yeah, hundreds and hundreds of pages of shit Manny had to go through to try to figure this out and explain it all to us, right? Um,
Hmm.
Lord Ludicrous wants to know: does Manny think Tom was involved with bringing the DVDs out of the Pentagon to Mellon?
I don't think he was directly involved, but I think he definitely was part of and I'll just say it, a conspiracy to agree to do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have filed for all the stocks and made all the plays that he did a month ahead of time, or 2 months or 3 months. Like I think he was definitely knew it was coming. So, there's no other logical explanation with all the evidence. I mean, I don't think he was at the Pentagon and physically handed them from Elizondo to Mellon. No, but the smoking gun bit that you see at the end there, where I played the Mellon clip and show the
Mm-hmm.
DVDs, that says it all right there. You got the stock. You've got Elizondo getting the discs on the 5th, handing them over to Mellon on the 7th, and then the stock offering on the 29th, which had begun, 6 or 8 weeks earlier in July. So Mellon, like they were all involved in it. They had to be. If there ever was a case of at least 3 people conspiring to do something, I'm not sure how you can make a conspiracy case if they can't make one here. But it seems
Yeah, and
like people
I
just
don't
aren't
understand.
interested.
I don't understand the DVD thing because I gotta imagine that I always use this example. Let's say, for example, I worked in the Pentagon and I had enough authority to release 3 drone videos of attacks in, let's say, Iraq or Afghanistan. If I had enough juice to declassify those 3, then I handed them off to a business associate of mine, quit my job, and then me and my business associate start this company, and we did nothing but profit from those videos that I declassified and got out of the Pentagon. For 5 years, we just profit based on what I took out of the Pentagon, which is owned by the taxpayers, and then got a TV show deal based on those 3 videos. And the videos were in the TV show, which is property of the government. So how do they get released to be on television? None of this shit makes any sense. That's why people say CIA op sometimes. Because if it is a CIA op, they're not getting prosecuted. It's a CIA op.
Well, yeah, but can you have a CIA op domestically? I mean, not unless it's attached to a domestic investigation. I mean, by their charter, they're barred from operating on American soil. So if it is a CIA thing, it's an off the books one, which it might be one of these wink nudge job programs that they set up for retired agents to kick them back a bunch of money under CRADAs and things like that we're not seeing. But I don't get that feeling. I really don't. I think that this is more something that they're running off the books and that mimics a legitimate.
Because you mentioned it in your documentary too, and I think some people might be unfamiliar with that.
The CRADA is the cooperative research and development agreement that the private people can get with the Army or the government to develop programs, systems, things like that. And it's something that is required to work on any sort of project that's going to have a classification level. If you're not, it's part of the process to getting that classification so that you can handle sensitive information or technologies or whatever. So they've instilled themselves there. But what, as we see, is how are these CRADAs abused? They're abused by companies like Bass, who get $22 million for junk science voodoo magic papers that they just simply subcontract out to Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis, who both happen to work for Hal's company, Earth Tech or whatever, Earth Sky, whatever it's called. I forget the name of the company. But so those guys all work there, and that's what they do, and it's really kind of, do you remember in Who's Lou how I talked about Inmar Technologies, how Lockheed had kind of done anything like that for their employees? So this is that same kind of thing that they would set up for a retiring agent or in the case of Lockheed, it was a retiring engineer. The guy sets up his private engineering company or boat company, and then they let him use those patents that he helped work on for Lockheed Martin. Once they've been declassified by some guy, but like Lou, then they could be, sold, and that's how they give money back to people and give them kickbacks and things like that. Or, I think it's all legal, but it's just kind of, it's big business, man. It's real shady. And I don't think a lot of people understand what's going on with it. And I don't think people are going to be happy when they do,
I can't get over that. They're able to get away with this. It boggles my mind. That's what I kept thinking. Look, and I didn't even get all the way through the financials, but I got enough through them that I understood generally what you got to, but a little, I didn't quite get to the finish line, but I knew about the stock dilution. And that alone to me basically says, we don't care about you people. And the fact that Lou Elizondo was apparently perfectly okay with this system of arrangement where they would take money from the public and then fuck the same public who was giving them the money, which he was benefiting from. And here's another thing. You know that I'm sick of people that don't ask Lou Elizondo real questions. Now that we have these revelations about TTSA, if somebody interviews him and they don't ask him, why were you okay with this TECHNOSCAM that you were involved with? Explain to me why it was morally or ethically okay for you to take those videos out of the Pentagon and profit from them for 5 years and then fuck the investors over with TTSA, and how much money did you get from TTSA in total? That's a valid question. Hey, Lou Elizondo, while these investors were getting screwed and their investment diluted to be absolutely worse than worthless, how much money did you make? And didn't you find a problem with that? Like, didn't you think maybe this isn't right? Like a moral or an ethical man, and the other thing is that guy's former military. And I got to tell you that military people have like that military code of honor. They have to pay their bills. They're not allowed to cheat people, lie, or steal from people. It's part of being a military man. So I'm kind of shocked that he was involved in this and didn't raise objections or resign as soon as he realized that all the investors were getting screwed.
I think as long as Mellon was there with him and is in the same boat as him, he feels okay because he knows that, there's that political protection that comes from being attached at the hip to Christopher Mellon. But
his family does have more money than God.
Yeah, those are legitimate questions. Like in a real world scenario, people should be asking Lou those questions. But from my experiences,
we're going to go to
Lou
the
is going to say is, I don't answer anything about. He won't answer anything about TTSA. He refers all questions about TTSA to TTSA, and the reason that is because Chris and him still have that loose affiliation. Probably not him, because I gather that he didn't. That he kind of rubbed, barbs with Tom DeLonge. If there's one thing a narcissist hates, it's another narcissist in the room with them. So the two of them probably got along like oil and water, but. Yeah. Maybe not narcissists, but strong personalities. Let's just say that.
World and chaos.
Centers of attention.
World in Chaos,
Yeah.
longtime show supporter. I want to thank them. World in Chaos. Here, this is the message
Nice.
they sent me on PayPal. World in Chaos here, Stephen. Your work is much appreciated. Praise the cash. $30 PayPal. Yes, praise the cash. Thank you very much, World in Chaos. It is much, much appreciated. And we're a viewer supported show. And it's not all about the money, friends. It's not, we're not just here for the money. And there's no subliminal messages or anything on my show. We don't use any gimmicks. No, thank you very much, World of Chaos, for helping us to praise the cash. So you listen. You just got done two massive projects, Manny, and people ask me, "What are you doing next? What are you going to be working on next?"
Well, I'm continuing to follow this story until something happens with it, and I'll keep digging into it and trying to push to get something done about it. I think that's my next big step is to really start, banging on some government doors and saying, "Hey, people, you are the only ones who can investigate this and do something about it. And if you're not going to, I want to know why." Like as a taxpayer who's paid for this stuff, as a another taxpayer who is getting bilked by this techno scam and this even if it's only 25 grand for that one contract, we saw in the video that they're gonna they're expecting the CRADA to bring in at least $1 million a year. So I don't want to pay that. I want that little bit of my tax money to go to something that's legit and not some money farm for whatever reason to pay for a band that's losing money or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
somebody.
interesting.
So Lord
I
Ludacris
just saw
said
that too.
that in the last 15 minutes of UCR and Green Street said that Lou sent out an email with five names and called them the Felon Five. I don't know what that's about. So you have to explain. You have to
Lou trying
explain,
to
Lord Ludacris. He's
discredit
trying to
people, but
discredit other people. Well, it's easy to do because there are a lot of criminals involved in this subculture, and for anybody to suggest otherwise hasn't dug enough into the characters in this conspiracy
it's my
land
opinion that
enough.
Elizondo's a criminal. He conspired to steal footage from the Pentagon and actively colluded to steal footage from the Pentagon. He is a criminal. I mean, come
Well,
on,
one
that's the
could
definition
argue,
of
well,
criminal. Anyone who
yeah,
broke a law,
well,
whether you're
playing
prosecuted or
devil's
not.
advocate, one could argue that it was
Yeah.
unethical, but I'm not sure it was illegal if he had the authority to declassify them, and then once declassified, anybody could see them, and he just copied them and took them out. But I want to get to a Pentagon person. I'm going to talk to you off here because I know you have a better email than me. I'm going to start hounding them. I want answers because one of the things I notice about government people is you got to hammer them sometimes. They don't want to do their jobs. You got to make them. You got to be in their ear and look. I'm going to email you every day until you help me. I'm going to call you every day. Like you almost have to get nasty with them before they'll do what they're supposed to do. And I've reached a point where I'm past the send an email, get no reply, forget about it for a few months, period. Now I'm going to start hammering these people that are supposed to be government spokesperson. Why can't we get a Pentagon spokesperson to just tell us what Lou Elizondo's day to day responsibilities were at the Pentagon? What was his actual job? Or
I
can
can
we
tell you.
see? Yeah, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
can
What did
tell
you
you.
find out?
Yeah, he was in biodefense, man, up
That's what
until at
I
least
found out.
2010.
Yeah.
Like he didn't, and he volunteered at ATIP. He was not at all. I mean, which totally syncs with his background and his degrees and everything. Like the guy, and of course, in the early 2000s, he probably did his little stint and went overseas for a bit. But other than that, he did not. He was not assigned to ATIP, and he volunteered there, which is commonplace there. If you've got clearance for someone to be like, yeah, I can do that. I'm cleared for it, go help out on a project. It's not doesn't mean he was a molder, doesn't mean he was some kind of super soldier, but he didn't do and besides, like I say this all the time, who really cares? Like the guy, if we get the truth today, are people going to be like, oh, we were wrong? I mean, like I don't see the New York Times and the Washington Post eating crow on this one just out of hubris, because they don't want to. They don't want to admit that they were wrong, but maybe we'll see it. Maybe we'll
Yeah,
see a
I,
flip in the
I
mainstream, and
I
you
have been
know,
listening to a little bit of Stephen Greenstreet, and he basically said, I think he broke it down beautifully. He got involved at the tail end of it when he just assumed that the other journalists did their jobs and like verified that there was a tip. He was the director. He did investigate UFOs, so he started there, not realizing that. a lot of these journalists
That
did
was
a
all
piss poor
BS.
job. Yeah, it was just like, well, they said it, so I'm just going to copy and paste it to my article, and it became this echo chamber of misinformation about Lou Elizondo.
It's
And everybody
lazy
just repeated the
clickbait
same
reporting,
lies.
man.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
lazy.
it's
So
lazy
he made
clickbait
some phone
reporting.
calls and got that statement that Lou Elizondo had no response. I'm still always unclear on that. He got a statement Lou Elizondo had no responsibilities for ATIP, but then I think they walked that back later, right?
No, they clarified it to say that he volunteered there, that he did. They said he did volunteer at some point because there was so much backlash about Susan Go or Goff or however you say it, Susan Goff, I think it is, saying
Mm-hmm.
that he had no official position there. But I believe her when she said that he had no official position there. And that syncs with all the evidence we have because nobody can show me one single document that says that he did. There's nothing, and there's not even. I mean, like it. The guy lied to us. He said he ran the UFO program for 10 years at the Pentagon. George Knapp said it to us too. Leslie Keane said it to us. Blumenthal said it to us. They all said it to us, and they all were wrong. They were wrong. He did not
Mm-hmm.
run a Pentagon UFO program for close to a decade. That is wrong. And where's the retraction on it? Even if it's 4 years later, they won't give it. They won't admit that they made a mistake, and instead they're perpetuating it by still running him as a credible journalist or as a
Yeah.
credible source.
Gigi Abbey
uh,
is pointing out that dark journalist interviewed John W. Warner, author, about his cousin Chris Mellon. Even he says the guy is shady. And Gigi, I did interview him as well, and he said some of the same things on my interview. I try to dig real deep
yeah, there was an interview with
about his cousin.
Warner, and
Those guys are not buddies.
yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, if one of his family members is telling you he's not such a stand-up guy, well, that might.
Oh
tell you
yeah, we need a
something, but
UFO Ministry of Truth, and somebody is appointing us to, right?
wow. I'm not sure what that would mean, but the Ministry of Truth.
That would mean a
Yeah.
lot of assholes would get thrown out of this thing on the first day, right? Like if you have 3
Yeah.
strikes for hoaxes or fake stories, you're out of here. You're done. No more. You don't get any more.
How do we get here, Stephen, though, where people take a guy like Lou Elizondo at his frickin' word with 3 little sketchy pieces of video that, since he brought them out, have pretty much been discounted, debunked, or even if they are what he says they are, unimpressive at best. I can show you a dozen different sightings that look better.
I think it has a lot to do with the hunger. I always talk about this. There's a huge hunger for this information, for these stories to be true. People really want to believe that the government has these advanced, maybe something crashed, maybe they got bodies, maybe they had a live one, and they know all the truth about these visitors. It's so sexy to believe that, and people so desperately want to believe it when along comes this guy, and it seems like a great story, right? But I was suspicious of him from the very beginning because I went, the whole narrative that we've all been taught in this thing called UFOs is that the government has been lying to us and covering this all up for 70 plus years. So why would they suddenly send this guy out? Now they're going to tell us the truth, right? So I don't know. I call it bullshit from the start. And it's interesting. I think, Manny, I'm not sure, but I think that even some of these really big Lou Elizondo supporters, they're not turning on him yet, but they're starting to they're starting to ask a few more questions than they did a year ago or 6 months ago, because I think that they know that certain people, like you and me, I would like to believe, when history plays out, are going to be known and remembered for being on the right side of this guy's story, and other people are going to be known for pumping up a bullshitter.
Yeah, I think that's where the dust is going to settle on this one, But, people, the rich and powerful sometimes can rewrite history, like it's been known to happen. So, that kind of shows what, I think Elizondo's actions kind of show that he thinks that's what he expects to happen. Like whatever he calls a win is a win. Whatever he says is the reality.
Oh, disclosure
reality,
already happened, Manny. Disclosure already happened. When they said the phenomenon is, when he stood there and said the phenomenon is real, that was disclosure. See, disclosure already happened. You just got to move the goalposts around so that it seems like a win. Or that UAP report, he said that was a big win. Like,
they're all wins, man.
6 pages of nothing. Nothing burger.
The nothing burger is a win. Yeah. You mean that because he didn't want to tell the world that 180-day report was a slap in the face to him from the Pentagon. He didn't want to admit that they bitch slapped him in front of the world with that document by only including data that he had access to. Like, it's crazy. It is so funny, man. And the guy just won't admit anything. Like, what's his second rule? Isn't that the one where he says, I'll admit my mistakes and hold myself accountable, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Never trust a guy whose number one rule is, I will always tell you the truth, folks. Because people, I mean, it's seriously, it's like,
I can't believe, does he still have that pinned on his Twitter now that we all know how many times he lied to the press, the public, and everyone else?
He might.
It's still pinned on his Twitter, I think, right? I'm going to check.
He just might. Yeah, go ahead and take it. Yeah, it's comedy. It's like inviting someone over to your house for dinner, and they walk in the door and they're like, "Hi, I'm here for dinner. Don't worry, I'm not going to steal your silverware." And you're like, dude, the first thing I'm doing when you turn around is counting my fucking forks and knives, man.
Yeah, it's still pinned. It's still pinned. He's been caught lying how many times in the past couple of months now? We know he lied about so many different things. It's crazy. It's still pinned. Like, this guy has no shame. I'll always tell you the truth. Is pinned to the top of his Twitter. You got caught lying about how much funding ATIP had. You got lying about running the program. You got lying, basically stealing the story of ASAP and pretending it was your story. I will always tell you the truth. I will own my mistakes and hold myself accountable. Why isn't he saying, gee, I'm sorry I lied to the New York Times. I'm sorry I lied to those reporters. Did you see there's reporters now that are coming out and telling everybody that they feel like they got manipulated, misled, and lied to by him and others?
They should.
Yeah, they're starting to come out of the woodwork now. It's not just Green Street and others. Like, other people are coming out and saying, I feel like I got manipulated, misled, and lied to by this man, Lou Elizondo. It's amazing. I like this one too. Abuse or hatred towards others will not be tolerated. And meanwhile, he's sixth his fanboy goon squad on me to threaten me, my family. They even came in the live chat and threatened my wife by name. But he's saying abuse or hatred, and he knows that happened. He could have said, I don't condone or support that, and people shouldn't do that sort of thing. All I did was host some asshole who made a movie about him, and suddenly I'm getting threats in the mail. Like, people are saying, I know where you live, motherfucker. All this stuff happened, Manny. You're a shit starter. All this shit started because of you, Manny.
Not me, man. I didn't do it. I didn't step on stage in front of the world and lie to him and tell him I ran a UFO program for close to a decade and the phenomenon was real. That wasn't me, man. That was somebody else. And he was just a spoke in the wheel. We all kind of thought it was Lou at the beginning, but we all know now it's not. He's the brawn. The brains is melon, and maybe even bigger than him. I don't know. I can't. Why is he even involved in this? What does he care?
Yeah, he's so rich. Why does he care?
Right, like you say, he's got FU money. He could, he doesn't need money. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen where he's gotten a dime for anything. I haven't seen his name on stocks or anything.
It's not just Mellon that's loaded. Warner's loaded too, right? He's a billionaire. John Warner, who I interviewed, and I got to tell you, it's so funny. Yeah. He's a weird and cool guy. He sent my kids 2 cases of astronaut ice cream for Christmas. And they fought over it. It was so good. I mean, these big boxes of shit. I was like, what's this? And it was a gift from John Warner. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'm rich.
I want to address something I just saw there. Sure. John says that Lou had the opportunity to talk to me. And that's absolutely 100% correct. I spent a good solid month publicly trying to get a hold of him after trying to send him private emails, through the course of the project to get his interview. And he did not respond to me in any way, shape, or form. He ignored me. He got onto his sock accounts, as people, I call them sock puppets. I guess I'm old school, but he got onto his alternate accounts and harassed me. I mean, one of them I knew. I had said something earlier. In fact, I wanted to say this to you. I knew it was him because I had said, I said, I'm trying to get a hold of you, Lou. There's some information in this documentary I'd rather not put in there if you can help me exclude it, because it's going to make you look bad. I just said it's embarrassing. Straight up. And they were yelling at me saying like, oh, you're trying to blackmail him, that stuff. And I'm like, no, this is a professional courtesy. I don't have to give him any notice, And then another weird account came on and said, you better go talk to an attorney before you print anything about Lou. And I thought to myself, I was like, God, of all the threats I've heard these people yell, that seemed really weird.
Yeah.
To threaten a lawsuit. Like, I've had my people threaten to blow up my house and steal my cat, but I've never had anybody threaten a lawsuit, so I go and look at the account, and it's a strange shock account that only follows, I think, 8 or 9 people. And one of them was me, one of them was you, one of them was Rich Goufon, and a couple of the other more vocal people
Critics.
that are,
Yeah.
critics
Follow
of
the code,
Lou's.
and then you argue with them because I'm a pussy
Yeah.
and I won't do it with my real name and face, but I can't. My Lou
And
Elizondo
it
must
wasn't
have.
Faceless Bureaucrat. It wasn't the one that
He's
everybody,
got to have.
the one that,
He's got to have
yeah,
a
it was a
huge.
different one.
He's got to have a
Yeah.
huge narcissistic personality disorder or something to be so thin-skinned that he can't stand anybody asking questions or criticizing him. So he's got to make a fake Twitter account to go yell at the guy, because that's basically what it
Yeah.
amounts to. I was looking around. I left those
It
sock
is.
puppets.
Yeah.
Those sock puppets I used in the last video I gave to my son, so they're not here. I was
Yeah.
like, faceless
Dude, those were
bureaucrat.
hilarious, man. If you people haven't seen that, they have to go back and watch the bit that you did last night about Lou Lizolato. It was absolutely hysterical. I watched it twice and I laughed all the way through it from beginning to end. It was just pure comedy, man. And it was comedy
and the
because
good
it's
news
great,
is,
because it's
and
true.
the good news is, I had a guest cancel like 15 or 20 minutes before, and I had that set, but I was going to write more or do something. I had to improv most of that from the top of my head, so that worked out pretty good. Yeah. So if there's
Yeah, it
questions
was
or
great.
comments, for Manny, we said we do a Q&A. So we do, if there's questions or comments for Manny about his new film, all about TTSA TechnoScam, I think you should just call it Who's TTSA or What's TTSA maybe. Or no, Who's better, because now you can have a whole series. The next, scammy person that you do a whole documentary on, who's that person? The next person, who's that person? Right?
Yeah, I like the Who's series. I think that's great. That's a great way to link it all together. So we'll just keep running with it and go from there.
World Chaos said she laughed her face off. I'm glad everybody liked it, because it was really like, that's one of those Evil Knievel. Manny, you're old enough to remember Evil Knievel. That's one of those Evil Knievel shows, because Evil Knievel, somebody once asked him, isn't there sometimes like a 50-50 chance that you're going to spill and, crash and burn? And he goes, yeah, that's why people show up. Because there's a 50-50 shot that this is going to be terrible. So I'm just glad that an Evil Knievel show like that worked out, right?
Yeah, it was great, man. Everyone should check it out. I loved it.
Oh, look at this.
Dude, this is ridiculous. Look at
Felon
him.
5 DM. It was sent to a group. Ooh. I will tell everybody right now on the record, I have 0 felony convictions. In fact, I have 0 criminal convictions. I have never been convicted of a crime. Maybe traffic tickets or minor things in my life, like everyone has. I've never, ever been convicted of a crime. And if Lou Elizondo is telling people that I have been, that would be considered a real big problem for Lou Elizondo. To try to discredit me by telling people that I'm a felon, not going to happen. Now, we're going to have to investigate this, because I'm not having anybody. See,
I'm just going to say it, man. The dude's a freaking coward, man.
Manny,
Lou Elizondo is a coward.
I told you this shit's going to start. I told you if I host you again, this shit's all going to start again. Now I'm on a list. Well, we got to get to that group.
Ooh,
we got to get to people in that group. I want to see it.
No. Lou's list. Woo. Oh, I'm shaking in my boots. Lou Elizondo's a freaking coward. To send his lightweight to deal with anyone who's challenging him, he is a weak person. Somebody just asked why he won't go on.
We got to.
Yeah, he won't.
So apparently they DM'd, and the DM included members or hosts of this UCR show. So I just want to tell them, you have a responsibility to forward that to me, because I'm on it. If he's sending you messages telling you that I'm a convicted felon, you better send that to me, because I have a right to defend myself. I've never been convicted of a crime.
I think Lou's really just proving a lot of people's points here about how he's going to try to, discredit critics, and then how he's got his little good boy club where him and his little friends just sit around in private messages and talk trash and figure out how to destroy the enemy and all that stuff. It's absolutely pathetic. Lou Elizondo, you're running an operation on the American fucking public. You swore an oath to uphold the Constitution Do it. Do it. You fucking coward. Or come and face me, face Rich Gouffon, or face Stephen Cambion. You fucking coward. There. Quit sending people like Lou Angeles and Tom Fessler and your little faceless bureaucrat sock puppet account after people, and have a backbone and face your critics if you've got nothing to hide. Or continue to run and prove them right. Continue to hide and prove them right. Weak.
Well, I
Thought he
have
was
a, I
some
have a
big
good
macho
idea.
dude.
I have a good idea who's on that list besides me and maybe you and Rich, right?
I don't know, and I don't really care. He can kiss my ass with his list. I've got a list that's of Chris Mellon, Lou Elizondo, Tom DeLonge, Hal Puthoff, and Jim Semivan. That's a little bit more impressive list than whatever he's trying to do. I'm sick of his bully bullshit, man. Lou, you want to run and hide? Do it, but don't send your lightweight after me, man, because I'll steamroll right over them like I did Tom Fessler, and I'll leave him right in the dirt.
And you know what?
Done with this.
If it's true that Lou Elizondo sent a DM to this Lou Angeles from Unidentified Celebrity Review, and my name is on it, he has a responsibility to reach out to me, give me a copy of that, because I'm here to tell you, I've never been convicted of a felony. And if Lou Elizondo is telling people that I am, that's a huge problem for Lou Elizondo, because I can go and get a copy of all of my records and prove that there's no criminal convictions on my records, period. By the way, I worked in accounting, and at my last job, I worked at a very high-end computer place with tons of expensive equipment everywhere. If I was convicted of a felony, there's no way I would be able to work in accounting, because you have access to financial information. They're not giving that to somebody that's a felon. And the same thing for the other jobs I've had when I've worked for other people. So for somebody to suggest that shows some desperation on his part. Like he's got a book to sell, and he's just going to shit all over anybody that's critical to try to destroy them, their reputation. They can't kill the message, so they got to kill the messenger, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's pretty typical.
Thank you, Lord Ludacris. I appreciate your kindness, your generosity, and your support. And I'd much prefer the support. I appreciate your $2, but I'd much prefer the support of you explaining this. You got to fill me in. As soon as we get off air here, you can call me on my cell phone, Lord Ludacris, and
that,
talk me through this.
Stephen, that ties into what we were talking about in the chat during the premiere about Lou Angeles, about going on there or him trying to debate us or something. I'm like, people are trying to act like there's this organized conspiracy to fight Lou, and it's not, because I don't like Lou and you don't like Lou and think his story is, full of crap, and so does Rich Gouffon. All of a sudden it's a conspiracy, it's not. There's just a group of people who happen to think the same way on one subject.
Well, maybe we're the counter CIA op, Manny. Like maybe
Yeah.
People have accused me of that. You're a disinformation. Lou's trying to bring us the truth about those aliens, and you're a CIA disinformation agent trying to discredit him so you can keep the cover up.
Lou's had 5 years to bring his truth into to do anything, and he hasn't. He hasn't done it in 4+ years. Okay,
he brought us 3 grainy ass videos. He brought us 3 grainy ass videos that don't prove anything that he's profited from for 5 years.
Yeah, well, and he found he's getting money and blah blah blah, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's if it's just, that's why I don't want to go on there, and that's why I don't want to face Lou Angeles, because I'm not going to be delegated off to Lou's lightweight. I've done my work, and if Lou wants to come and face me, then he can face me. If he doesn't want to, if he's too much of a coward, that's on him. And that's how I'm ending it. I'm not gonna go and debate Tom Fessler or Lou Angeles or anybody else in his stead. That's not worth my time. Okay, I've got bigger fish to fry.
He's basically want to send a lackey, and for all we know, that was going to be a gotcha. Like I'm going to go on there, and
of
Lou
course
Angeles is going to convict me. Is going to say you're a convicted felon when I'm not. Show me the paperwork. Show me the arrest record. Show me whatever you got.
So Elizondo is going to stack all the questions he wants to ask to get his intel on Lou Angeles, but not have to face any of the counter questions or give anything for it. He kissed my ass. What does he think that I owe him anything for? That guy owes me a bunch, like an apology for what he sent his fucking fans to do on his behalf. How about an apology for the disrespect of ignoring me for 3 months before I put that documentary out and tried to get his side of the story where he wouldn't let me do it. I don't owe him anything. And, and honestly, I've told Lou Angeles a long time ago, I said, I'll come on UCR anytime you want to talk about my point of view, or you can come onto my show, or I'll do a live stream and we can do it on my channel and we can do the same. So I don't get why it's got to be some weird thing. And I'm not going to walk into a situation where, Elizondo sends in this proxy with a bunch of rhetoric and garbage who doesn't have any real answers. What's in it for me? What the hell is Lou Angeles going to give me that I want? I want answers from Elizondo. He's not going to have them. So no, Lou, if you're too much Elizondo, if you're too much of a coward to face me, I'm not going to deal with your little minions, man. You can keep your plebes at home where they go, "Yay, Lou, you're awesome. Lou's awesome." I don't deal with lightweight, man. Scrubs.
Yeah, and you know what? I wonder how some of these fanboys, like Fessler and the other idiots, like how are they dealing with these revelations that Lou Elizondo lied to so many people and lied about so many specifics, and now we have the revelation that he was involved in this TTSA thing. So like I don't know, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. Some people just want to believe and they'll believe no matter what. And I've stopped trying to reach anybody like that. But there's a lot of people who were on the fence and didn't know which way to go. And I feel like most of them have had their eyes open, one way or the other. But we've come to the point where there's just enough information out there for you got to say, sorry, folks, there's no more fence sitting. It's time to pick a side. The guy's full of crap or you're full on lufology at this point. Because he hasn't brought anything new. But if you don't stop him now, he's gonna use the fact that nobody stopped him for a year to say that his claim that disclosure's been here and that it's here and that's all we're gonna get, and he's gonna write his own reality. So it's just time for people to stand up and say enough is enough, man. We're not going by your little narrow worldview, and I'm not going to subscribe to what you say is truth because you say it's truth. He's had almost 5 years to provide evidence and has failed. Book's closed on Elizondo as far as I'm concerned. He's kind of like that guy who robbed the convenience store and got shot on the way out, but still has 3 steps of life in him before he hits the ground. He just doesn't know he's dead yet. Sorry. Yeah. Why are we still talking about Lou?
I don't know myself sometimes, but I think it's like force of habit or something. It's been like,
well, no, that you're right though, because some people have really clinged to that thing, to that image, and say, "Oh, he's still our champion of disclosure. He's still the big guy." And you're like, "Folks, I'm sorry, but he's done." His story's full of crap. He's full of crap. He's been exposed as everything but what he says he was. And he doesn't have a lick of evidence to support his story other than what he's already provided on day one, which were these 3 pieces of shoddy video. That's it. So, book close. Yeah. On to DeLong and TTSA and all the other rest of the players.
That's all we get after all this time, right? That's all we get? It's amazing to me that that's all we get.
Well, what are we going to do when the guy won't ever go into a hardball interview question? I mean, he's supposed to be some kind of super soldier that can talk around. There's no way you're going to manipulate him into saying something he doesn't want to say because that's his job, right? But yet he's afraid to face even the most, I hate to say it, I'm just a Joe Nobody, man. Why won't he talk to me? He doesn't want me to put his back into a corner and make him look like a fool for all the lies he's told for years, maybe? Because it'll happen. I've got all the documents. I've got all the screenshots. I've been following this for years. You've been following it since day one. I mean, he just won't. He won't face anybody who questions his story. Like I said in the documentary, that's why he does a scratch and sniff. Let's see what they like, who they are, and whatever. So, yeah, whatever. If he doesn't want to face one of us, what are we going to do? I'm not going after his chump change.
Well, it's one thing to send your goon squad. It's one thing to send your goon squad out to dox people or to threaten or harass their family, but it's a whole other thing to start making claims that they're convicted criminals if they indeed are not, or whatever, and doing it directly or sending it to other show hosts. If that's true, that's more problematic than a lot of the things that he's been involved with.
There's all kinds of legal issues there, but just moral issues. Like, what a fucking scumbag! Really? This is how he's going to respond to people who ask him serious questions about the holes in his stories based on the public records found on the internet that anybody who has some fingers and a computer and internet access can go find? Is that he's going to try to wreck them personally?
Well,
what a scumbag.
Listen, he said everyone will be treated with respect no matter what their position, and abuse or hatred towards others will not be tolerated.
Well, yeah, and he's a liar. Every word out of his mouth is a lie. You know, you just got to flip it on its head and you see what I mean, like, come on, that was the first of his lies, as I said in his Lou documentary. I will always tell
Yo,
you the
you know
truth.
what? You know what? The other thing is that these Lou Elizondo big cheerleader supporters, they're fucked. They're fucked right now. I'm going to say this. Go look at their views if they do a show solo without Lou. And then go
Yeah,
look
they
at
get
their
nothing.
views when they do a show with Lou. It's like a tenfold difference, you know. It's like orders of magnitude. They'll get 3, 4, 500, 800 views by themselves or with a little known guest, but when they have Lou, they get 20,000 views. So they gotta keep
Hmm.
pushing this Lou's cart of
Hey,
bullshit to get the views. They have no other way to
it,
get that kind of views.
yeah. Well, they rode the cash cow, and the cash cow's been, you know, it's done. It's over. The gravy train's over. You know, but part of that, Stephen, is the YouTube algorithm. And you know how when things become popular, it recommends them more and more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know, and there's ways to manipulate that algorithm, especially if you have money and resources behind you. But you know, it really just echoes what was going on in the mainstream media: lazy clickbait reporting, people repeating old stories because they were old and not bothering to research them. You know, just citing them as fact and going on because it was a quick way to get an article up on a web page or a segment out on your local piece or whatever. And that's
Well,
something
yeah.
that you know, in the
Captain
interview that
Corrosive,
when I,
this is very. I believe this to be true. I'm entitled to my opinion. Captain Corrosive is here in our live chat. Says he knows what his fans do. He endorses it clearly. Thanks them for their support as they harass people and dox them. There were replies on the videos with the Fister of people informing him that Fister and his crew were doxing people, harassing people, threatening people with screenshots. So he was informed that
he knew.
that show host was doing that. What does he do? Go back on that show host show to thank him for getting to those critics because he can't openly do that kind of shit. So
Uh,
he needs pawns and useful
but why are people
idiots.
so shocked when when a scumbag acts like a scumbag? People are like, "Oh, I'm so shocked that Lou would do that." I'm like, "I'm not. He's a scumbag. I mean, come on, look at how he reacts to any of the smallest criticism. If you challenge his superhero image, he just drops a shit bomb on you. He tells you, "How about a hot cup of shut the f up?" You know, like God, what a basic dude. Like, and it's not like why and why would we care, like why would we even put up with it, you know, like anybody else like that acts in the world, you'd just be like, God, what a blowhard, I'm not going to hang out with that person. But for, you know, he infiltrated our community and he got his hooks in, you know, and he's, you know, I don't get how people follow him when he says straight up, I ran this thing like an operation. You know, he's like, he's admitting that he's running an operation on the public and the world and nobody seems to care. You know, he's all in
I'm
bed with
with
all these
Captain Corrosive.
government CIA folks. Yeah,
I'm with Captain
yeah,
Corrosive.
definitely.
You know, some
Yeah,
people you
and
just
she's right
and you
about that.
know
I'll tell you what, he does know, and I've seen people tag him and stuff that he does like that, and he turns a damn blind eye to it. You know, and what I wanted to say this earlier about him and his sock puppets. That just speaks to the level of arrogance that this man has, man. That he thinks that he can come into a genre like ufology, which honestly is about that big. You know, like we
yeah,
all kind of know each other,
it's a tiny subculture. If I
right?
don't know a
But
person, I know some of their friends. That's how tiny
you're
this
damn
is.
straight.
There's 1 degree of
But
separation between all of us here in this thing.
right. But he thinks he's going to come in here and take this thing over and nobody's going to notice his sock puppet accounts and his manipulation and his bullshit. I mean, why would you choose a skeptic community that's full of researchers to try to infiltrate unless you think you are just God's gift to the intelligence agent? You know, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's just his own arrogance that's going to be his downfall once again, you know, but
You know, I can't
I just
believe this
don't.
latest. He's emailing people claiming that I'm a criminal now. Great. You know, it's
That
just great.
that doesn't surprise me that they.
I haven't suffered enough abuse for being honest about him. You know, I've been doxxed, threatened,
Yeah,
and all kinds of nonsense. People are coming to my live chat, threatening my family members by name because, you know, these right click researchers are such geniuses. They know how to look me up on Facebook and find family
yeah.
members of mine. This is ridiculous. And you know, I have to say that I know at least one person, Manny, who suffered this kind of shit that I'm going through here, but it was related to Corey Good, and in his case, he got it. It got him so much that he just quit. He just said, "I'm not going to do anything on YouTube anymore. I'm done with this." And everybody misses that guy to this day. He did amazing, great work. He always told the truth. He did great research. He showed everybody what he found, And it painted some of these cosmic con artists like Lou Elizondo, uh, alleged cosmic con artists. I don't want to get threatened with another lawyer. But that guy would show people that the truth behind some of these conspiracy land characters and their claims. He got harassed so much. They found out where he worked. I think he lost his job because there was hundreds of people calling, screaming at people at his job that why are you letting that guy work there and all this stuff. He got so pissed off he quit. So that's what they want, though, in the case of people like you and me. They don't want people out there telling the truth about this shit. They want people that are just going to play along with the UFO circle jerk, give them the softball questions, like keep pushing their bullshit cart down the road.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and
Well, I'm
it's
not. I know you're not playing
you know?
along, and I know that I'm not going to play along. I know I'm no rich goof on him. I'm speaking for, but I know he ain't going to play along, and there's other people too that aren't going to play along. And I'll tell you this too, man. Like, as far as retaliation goes, they've already done everything to me that they can, so I don't give a shit what they think they can do next time. Like I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm over it. All they did was release any reservations. Yeah. So
somebody
I mean,
somebody else doxed me, and actually, in her defense, she didn't realize that Anjali released some audio recording and doxed me again, like a week or two ago. But she did it by accident, and then she offered to take it down. And what I said was, no, I've already been doxed 3 or 4 times in the past couple of months, so it's already out there. If somebody really wants it, and if anybody really wanted to find me, they could. But I do find it interesting that in 7 or 8 years, nobody ever doxed me, nobody ever found me. And just a few weeks after I had to give legal papers to YouTube to a false copyright claim, who's buddies with some of these assholes, suddenly everybody's got all my personal information, my home address, and everything. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. I saw that too. They did. They use these systems to get our information. That was not very cool of this person to jump in and get involved where he didn't need to, and that just kind of makes him look bad. But like we can't be responsible for how other people act. Ultimately, they need to take accountability for their own actions, and then the people who put them up to it, like Elizondo, and who turn a blind eye to it while they do it, they need to be held accountable too. That's just the bottom line. But yeah, I need to take just a quick break, man. I need to run to the restroom real quick, man.
All right, I'll pop you out of there for a minute there. Yeah, we'll take a quick break. We're going to be wrapping things up here soon anyway. I keep saying this is my last show not my last show. This is my last show in my office studio here. For those that don't know, I'm in a tiny little attic room that is above our kitchen, and it's the hottest room in the house. There's only one tiny window, and it's behind the backdrop. Even if I run the air conditioner, it's almost unbearable in here, but I can't run the air conditioner with the microphones at all. So that means that this studio is going to be completely and totally unusable for the next few months. Last year, I tried my very best, and what I used to do is pull the backdrop down, put the air conditioner thing. It's one of those portable ones that go on the floor. But anyway, I used to blast the air conditioner for 5 or 6 hours and then come in here, disconnect the air conditioner, put the backdrop back up, and try to get through an hour or 2 hour show without melting. And it didn't work out so well. So I'm starting a new studio in another area of the house, which I'm actually excited about because it's a huge space compared to this. And it's actually the space I wanted to do this show studio first, but I just kind of went, this small room will work for now. And then what pisses me off is that I have 4 cameras in here all working. Everything is perfect in here now. But now I have to escape the too hot studio and build I guess Studio B. And then this room will still be fine for doing video editing or research or whatever, as long as I have an air conditioner blasting in here the whole time I'm in here. But I can't use this for shows. So I keep saying tonight is the last show from our first studio here. But then the next day I do another, I made it through the week, but I'm melting in here right now. It's terrible. And I guess, but I'm kind of like on the fence, right? There's 2 sides to every coin. Like part of me is like, well, it's good, we'll be like, new beginnings and all that kind of stuff. But the other part of me is like, well, I don't want new beginnings. Everything that in this room works great. But environmentally, it's just not going to work. Oh, listen, Josh and Artemis is here and says there's so much of that going on. Lou used the faceless bureaucrat account to brief his supporters on who to target. That was a big slip up from Lou earlier. I wonder who else is on the list. Lord Ludicrous. Yeah, there we go. Manny's back. He's freshly pissed,
Yeah.
right?
Recharged, man. Ready to do battle. Wait, there's nobody to battle with.
Yeah, Kate Snyder's talking about all kinds of stuff. Well, I think that Mr. Elizondo may be unraveling because you got to remember that he's been setting this up for the long play for a while, and that book of his is coming out, and all this dirt is coming out on him right before the book comes out. That can't be good for book sales. Just my opinion. I don't know.
I think maybe the documentary might have pushed back the book a little bit, where they had to go and fact check things a little bit, maybe, or maybe rewrite some sections. I don't know.
Take shit out of the book. God damn it! I got to take all this shit out because now people know it's fake. Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes out, I'll find out who the ghostwriter is and contact them. Maybe we can talk about it after the fact.
Yeah, I wanted to just mention to everybody that we're going to be wrapping things up here shortly, but I wanted to mention to everybody that I have put out more videos this week than I ever did, but I was able to do that because we put out 3 interviews from my previous show, The Midnight Hour. Tonight at the midnight hour, Eastern Standard Time, is my interview with Grant Cameron. It's one of my favorite interviews. I know a lot of people are like, he's too woo now, but I love the guy because he is doggedly out there looking for what the truth is behind this, everything to do with aliens, flying saucers, UFOs. I love the guy. Midnight tonight, I'll be in the live chat. Come back and join us for that. So, Manny, what's next for you? We'll end on that. What's next?
I'm going to Disneyland. Yeah, I'm going to go to Disneyland.
Oh no!
You said it was a victory lap. For me, Disneyland's Vegas. Anyways, I don't go to Disneyland. I go to Vegas to relax. I don't know what's next. So I'm going to keep running this down. The interview on Josh and Artemis show last night, Bob Kiviat popped on for a little bit. We talked a little bit about a project that we're going to be working on.
Yeah, I saw that. It's interesting that he just
series,
popped on. I hope you guys get me his contact information. I'd love to interview that guy. He's an interesting
we'll be seeing a lot more of Bob, I think, here in the future here. I think he's going to be coming out talking a little bit more, so that's always good. So working on that, but always following this story. There's more involved here. We still don't know. There's a 3rd round of stock that they just offered, that TTSA just offered, so I'm going to be following that. I was kind of half joking, but I'm kind of half serious, Stephen. If you want to go in and buy a section of stock, then we can do that.
We can each own half a share. No, you got to buy a certain number of shares, but it amounts to 7.
Yeah, it's 120. Yeah, 120 shares, $750. We could do that, and that way we would get access to the financials.
Well, not only that, but if we started calling the SEC, complaining as shareholders that we want information and they're not giving it to us, they'd have to give us the information. Mr. Catfish 2100. Kind of generous.
We got to give him a chance
we love
you. Got to give him a chance to give you information, though. You can't just buy stock and file a complaint. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it some more and see about the logistics of doing that. Because there is another offering that's up this year. They're going to be offering trying to get another 30 million. Bob said something last night about him, or somebody else had said something about him sitting down with they're trying to get billionaire angel investors, and that's follows what I found in the paperwork, where it says pretty much, hey, we'll take money from anywhere. Angel investment, outside investors, public investors, the stork. If the stork wants to bring us a bag marked loot, we'll take it. I don't think they care. But why do they need all that money? Why are they burning through it so quick? Where's it all going? I hope I proved to everyone it's all mostly going to Tom DeLonge.
It looks like it's going to Tom DeLonge to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I'll be following that and, trying to expose some more things, and then looking at some other stuff and trying to, just figure out what's going on with this whole agenda, this group as I see it. And, from there, it's detailing how they got here. What was the perfect storm of events that let everything happen here, or made everything happen? Because it's not a big orchestrated.
It sure seems like they had an easy time manipulating the media into doing their bidding too. It's amazing to me. Nobody could pick up the phone and verify some of their shitty claims
Right.
that were fake.
It's like 70% fear of missing out, FOMO, and 30%, lazy clickbait reporting. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know, because from day one, like you said, you were suspicious. The very first video that I ever did that mentioned TTSA and Lou Elizondo, I think what I said about Elizondo was, that guy doesn't look like we can trust him as far as we can throw him. And he's a stocky dude, so we probably can't pitch him very far. So something in my,
Yeah.
like, and there's other people too whose intuition was just spot on, who just, there was Gigi had said something in the chat. She said from day one she felt off about this whole group and people, so other people caught it. There was Keith Clore had done a piece about it back in the day, calling out Elizondo as maybe being a little questionable. He said, like, I just didn't really like the vibe, and there were some other journalists, but it was the unpopular opinion, and it wasn't the one that got the clickbaity clickety clicks and all the slaps on the backs and all that. So what are you going to say? Do you want to be right, or do you want to make money? I mean, I'd rather be truthful and tell the right story than have a clicky 17,000 views because you put Elizondo in the title.
No, I think it's totally okay to just make mistakes. Like, I gained a lot of respect for the Stephen Greenstreet because he was kind of on board at first, reporting it as if it was true. But then he did his own turn because he started digging and going, I can't believe that nobody found this stuff that I found. Nobody picked up the phone, and now he's changed his tune. I respect him more for saying, hey, I didn't go, I started at the wrong point, and now I'm going to be covering this. He's going to be covering this whole thing a lot differently. I can't wait for those new episodes,
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that that's the sign of a critically thinking, rational person. If they can look at new evidence and say, oh, here's more evidence, I'm going to consider that now. Yeah, that's what we should all be doing.
Plus, he's just funny. Did you see on his birthday, he got those Batman balloons and he tweeted himself with the Batman balloons? That was awesome. Yeah.
yeah, you got to have a sense of humor, man. Come on.
You got to. It'll go crazy trying to cover this shit. After a while, I gotta go back to really good people that are involved in this every once in a while because I spent too much time digging in dirty, slimy people's business, and I have to go remind myself there's good people here, that are telling people the truth, doing good research, right? It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need a palate cleanser. Something to just rinse off that. That's how I feel about doing something like this. I just want to go do some comedy or make some music or something and just do something fun and lighthearted for a little bit, and then get back to the grind, get to cracking on the rest of the story, and figuring out where we're going to go from here. But I hope we don't have as much fallout over this one as we did Who's Lou.
Every time I have you on my show, this shit starts, Manny. This shit already started. You come on my show now. People are sending lists around saying I'm a criminal and shit. Look at this shit. And it was because they knew you were coming on here. That's what it was. Like, we got to
I'm not playing that game, man. I'm not going to have Lou Elizondo send an email to one of his plebeian little worshipers and send them off after me or you or anybody else. That is just ridiculous. If Elizondo doesn't have the stones to handle it himself, forget it.
This is a huge problem for him because he has to think of what is an outsider looking in going to think of him sending around this list. And, if anything becomes a legal situation, people can subpoena his emails and his messages to all these other show hosts and then make it public. What's that going to make him look like? Like, this is a big shitstorm about to erupt right here,
It makes him look like the scumbag that he is. I mean, what do you want me to say? I mean, like,
I don't know.
You can't. I mean, everyone's like, oh, the guy's a hero. Oh, he's a patriot. How can you say that? I'm like,
hey, GQ said he was a hero.
Have you been paying attention? Yeah, GQ, great. The men's fashion magazine in the UK said he was. Why didn't GQ US give him that? Why was it GQ UK? I wonder. Why do you have to go abroad to get a kudos? Maybe he can't. Maybe the people over here know he's not important.
Yeah. Well,
Josh and Artemis, I appreciate you guys saying that. They said, who's Lou changed the conversation. I really do appreciate you saying that because I put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
And it received it got kind of a shit stick as far as that goes, the response goes. But you know,
But now it's a part of
it's
the history of this thing, though. You should be proud of it, regardless of view counts, or
I
because
am.
they
Yeah.
told. Listen, for those that don't know, Manny got completely screwed over because what they did, he had all this momentum leading up to the release. Right after the release, all these slimy people started copyright claiming it to get it taken off of YouTube, and that took what, weeks to resolve it? A couple weeks, a
Yeah,
month.
almost like a month, over a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, over a
So all the
month. Yeah, it
momentum he
was.
had built
Yeah,
for the film and for the release got screwed over by the Fister Fucktard gang and all the and Loose Goons and all these other people. And wasn't it Tom DeLonge copyright claimed some of
yeah. It
it to
was
get it
also the
taken down?
TTSA and the History Channel. All three of them conspired to attack me to shut it down. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. They all hit me at the same time, trying to get me taken off of YouTube. Actually, they were
Yeah.
thinking
They're
that
trying
they
to get you
could
stricken
screw the
out.
algorithm and. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I'm kind of I'm expecting them to do something like that here. They didn't. Everyone should go check out the Ars Technica article when they were 37 million in debt when it wasn't 56. But they what would Walter say? I just saw that regarding the virtue of
He's
all
talking about
veterans. Yeah.
regarding the virtue of all veterans. I was a federal agent in the U.S. Air Force DoD. Who do you think we investigated? Yeah, just because somebody's a military person doesn't mean that they have good ethics or morality, I guess. But I know there's that
No, I have a
universal
huge
code
respect
of.
for Walter, man. I love Walter's
Yeah,
work,
me
man, and
too.
I think
Walter's
I
one of
would
the
love
good
to get
guys.
his.
He's one of the good
I'd
guys.
love to get his opinion on Lou and all that, and the other stuff that's going on around there
Reach out to
because
him. He's not one of those
yeah.
rock stars. He'll message you or he'll talk to you. He's one of the good guys. I've known that since the very beginning of my journey in this adventure. The good guys are really easy to spot usually, and sometimes not so much. But he has been one of the good guys, and glad to know him. Friend of the show. Veteran does not mean always ethical. Yeah, but I was just saying, Walter Bosley, that there is that universal code of honor in the military. You can't not pay your bills. You can't lie and cheat and steal. Like they have certain rules that military people live by or are supposed to. But I guess once you get out of the military, you can just go, well, I'll start being a slime ball now. I played by the rules long enough. And Walter says he
Right.
hasn't believed Lou's thing from the start. Well,
I'd be
Manny,
curious to know what Walter thinks about the fact that Lou left the army after 3 years and worked for possibly a private contractor the whole time after that. That he wasn't an actual DoD employee or not. I'm not sure how that would work, if that's even what happened or not. But I
the
think
Omen
that
God
was
says
there
the
was
Who's Lou film was fantastic, in my opinion. Yeah, I think he did a great job on
yeah,
it. I think he did an excellent job
yeah.
on it. All right. Well,
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I'm starting to melt, so I at least got to get out of here and
Yeah.
open my door. I want to thank
All
you for
right.
doing this, Manny. I want to thank you for your hard work, both on the Who's Lou film and on this new TTSA piece. Both were excellent, incredible work. I highly suggest everybody check him out. His channel and the link to the video he just premiered an hour before our show tonight is in the description. You got to see this, where it's all laid out for you. What a alleged TECHNOSCAM TTSA truly was. How they screwed the investors over, diluting the stock. How Tom DeLonge and all his buddies made all this money, but everybody else, the investors, not so much, right? Watch the video.
No, not so good.
Support good research. All right, Manny, I'm going to talk to you off air. So we have.
Yeah, I'll hang out in the back.
Okay, we'll be right back, or I'll be right back to you. All right. All right, friends, what can I say? It has been a rough week here. I am proud of myself, though, because we managed to release more videos this week than any week of our YouTube channel. We recently hit 5,000 subscribers and I think 400,000 views or something like that. The show is growing by leaps and bounds. I'm going to have more good news about the show growing to share with you soon, but I want to finalize everything before I start flapping my gums. We've got some new, I guess I could say we've got some new plans for increased distribution that's really going to take our show to, I think, new heights. I'm excited about that. I've got a new studio under construction in a different area of my house here. I'll be posting some pictures and updates about that. And when there's something to actually, show you. Right now, I'm trying to clean all the junk out of that area. All right. So, boy, it is true that every time I have Manny on my show, all this shitstorm of controversy and drama starts. But I'm not complaining. I kind of like that. It keeps life interesting. And all the other shitstorms went away for a while. So I guess I'm due for another shitstorm of drama, controversy, and internet trolling. I guess. What can I say, friends? This is kind of par for the course, right? It comes with the territory. So that's all we got for you tonight, friends. Thanks each and every one of you kind and generous supporters. I could remind you that we're a viewer supported show. For $1 a month on Patreon, you can support us and be a Patreon member and get all kinds of extra content plus a monthly show journal. And the last day of every month, we are doing a Patreon only live stream. From now on, the last day of the month is Patreon live stream day. You can make a PayPal donation. Instructions for that are in the description of the video. You can become a member. There's a join button here for $5 a month, but be sure to email me if you become a member so that I have your email address, because becoming a YouTube member also means you get all the PayPal benefits. So Patreon is $1 or more a month. The membership is $5 a month, and you get some member perks here plus the Patreon benefits. Or there's a money button down there. But let me not forget. I've been forgetting to do this. Like any good YouTuber, I'm supposed to remind you that there is another way to support us, and that is to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. Also, if you're listening in audio podcast land, you're missing half the fun. You hear us taking questions and comments from the live chat. It's a very interactive show. If you're listening in audio podcast land, we love and appreciate you, but you're missing half the fun. Go on over to YouTube. And in the search bar, put Truth Seekers, one word. Look for me, the strange guy with the sunglasses. That's the Truth Seekers YouTube channel where we do all the tapings for the podcast live here with interactive live chat. We'd love you to come and be a part of that. So go over to YouTube, Truth Seekers in the search bar, look for me with the sunglasses, smash the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and come here and don't just listen to the show. Don't just watch the show. Be a part of the show. If you have interest in these strange and esoteric topics, you are most welcome here. Come and be a part of the show. So, until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion, reminding you that it is better to be hurt by the truth than to be comforted by a pretty lie. Good night, friends.